The room smelled of metal and old coffee. Lights blinked over the console. Commander Aisha Khan sat very still. Her hands rested on cool metal. Outside the dome the city slept. The broadcast array waited like an old drum. Aisha read the lines on the screen again. The message had to be exact. For years they had built the signal in secret. Tonight everything would leave Earth in a single beam. Engineers moved in careful steps. They checked power and timing. An old technician, Rafi, touched a seam of the machine as if it were a friend. He had made parts of the array when he was young. The message was short. It had no music. It spoke in many tongues and in a machine pattern. The human sentence repeated like a pebble dropped in water: stop. Or know what follows. Aisha thought of children and rivers and old books. She did not want war. She wanted safety. Sometimes safety needs a hard voice, she told herself. The window to send the beam was small. The array drew a sudden flood of energy. The world around held a long breath. When they released the signal, it cut out of the dome and raced into the dark. The pulse carried two things, warning and a small key. The key was a pattern made to wake old machines and show a path to those who knew old designs. It was not a simple threat. Far away, on a mining station wrapped in ice, an alien technician heard the signal like a wind. He replayed the pulse on a small console. His instruments read strange angles. The pattern did not fit any language he knew. Still, it moved in the machine like a hand inside a glove. The technician felt a cold prick in his chest. He did not know why, but he felt an old story waking. On a small freighter, Captain Sira watched a copy of the signal on her cracked screen. She had met humans before. Now hearing that short line made her stomach tighten. She thought of peaceful days and of words used like knives. On a distant warship, Lieutenant Morrow touched the implant near his ear and watched the pattern. He had studied old human archives. The signal's key fit one old diagram. A memory warned him that this key could unlock things meant to stay closed. Back on Earth, the meter on Aisha's console climbed. It recorded how many systems took the signal. Alerts flashed. Some messages tried to calm the worry. Others were sharp and quick. The council chambers filled with voices and fear. Unknown to most on Earth, a ship the size of a city far beyond maps turned its engines. It bent its course toward the beam. Its commanders read the human line and moved to find the source. The first replies came in small ways. A trader rerouted his ship. A translator broke into a private channel to ask a friend. A priest read the line as a sign. A general saw the key as a threat. Tiny events spread like cracks in ice. Rafi stayed by the array as parts cooled. He watched the sky on the dome screen. He had no illusions about what might come. He had thought for years that words could be a shield. The array had made words into something machines could feel. In a listening post carved into rock, an alien made a call. He used an old flag code to mark the pattern. The call went to a council that had not met in a long time. Men, aliens, and machines slowed. Someone read the human line and the room fell quiet. A distant recorder caught a strange blink as the beam passed a sleeping station. For 1 second the station lights matched the signal's rhythm. Machines hummed with a memory they did not know. Then the lights returned to normal. The recorder saved that blink. On the bridge of a neutral cargo liner, Sira closed her eyes. The human signal left a taste in the air like cold wind. She thought of home and small kindnesses she had known. The meters on Aisha's console stilled. The signal was out. It would take hours and years to cross to far systems. Yet already the galaxy moved. Ships changed routes. Markets dipped. Messages ran faster than ships. Commander Aisha stood in the quiet and let a long breath out. She had sent a single line into the dark. She did not know how many would reply with words or weapons. She only knew they had told the truth of their fear. For better or worse, the world had declared itself. The night closed around the dome and the stars watched like many cold eyes and waiting. The trade hub of Terran was loud as rain. Ships came and went like birds. Market stalls hung bright signs. Merchants shouted for business. It was a place where small lies and big deals lived side by side. Talo carried a crate of glass plates. He moved between stalls with quick steps. His hands were steady. The plates were fragile and worth a lot. He liked the simple work. He liked counting coins at the end of the day. Then the screens in the market all went dark for a breath. A short clip played on every device. It was the human signal. The market quieted. Voices stopped. The clip repeated the line, "Stop. Or know what follows." People looked up. Some laughed and said it was a prank. Others closed their stalls and left. A merchant knocked over a stack of goods. He cursed and locked his crate. Traders whispered and watched the skies. Talo watched the clip 3 times. He felt cold. He had moved goods beside humans before. He had seen their ships, seen their faces. The short line felt like an order. It made his hands small inside his gloves. In the embassy quarter, Ambassador Lutheran sat beside a map. He had worked to keep peace for years. He watched the signal with tight eyes. He tapped his desk. 1,000 small alarms blinked on his console. The message had a pattern inside it. That pattern fit old treaties and old warnings. It moved through machines like rain through pipes. Lutheran called for quiet. He sent messages to friends in far places. He asked them to log what they had seen. Some answered with calm voices. Others answered with fear. He sent a calm recording back to 1,000 inboxes. He chose words that would not inflame. Not far from Terran, a priest on the ocean world of Vasi read the message as a sign. He told his followers that a change had come. The crowd lit lanterns and sang a tired song. On a military station near the rim, a general heard the line and rubbed his jaw. He thought of old battles. He ordered patrols to watch. Small events turned into big fear. A cargo convoy changed course and drifted through black space like leaves. A freighter captain cut power and waited. The convoy's long-range cams caught a distant silhouette, a ship that flashed a human-like beacon. The convoy sent an urgent call. A reply came back, "Hold position." News channels filled with stories. People argued. Banks moved money. The market rates dropped and rose like heartbeats. Some traders closed deals to leave space. Others waited to buy cheap. Fear had made a new market. Ambassador Lutheran read a private file. The signal carried a key. The key was a map of old places where humans had been hurt long ago. It named ruins and battlefields. It named cities burned. The map did not show stars. It showed old debts and old names. That discovery made Lutheran's hands shake. In a small workshop, a translator replayed the message again and again. He found a hidden file inside the code. The file pointed to a list, names and coordinates. The list read like a ledger. People who had thought the past was gone found that the past had not forgotten. In the Wayne's hideout, a hunter crew watched the list with hungry eyes. The Wayne were known for finding lost things. They fed the map into their NAV. They saw a place nobody visited now, an ice world with a buried transmitter. The Wayne read the plan and set their ship to go. On Terran, Talo closed his stall and looked for a buyer. A stranger in a dark coat offered him a price he could not turn down. The stranger's eyes were flat like polished stones. He said, "We want to be safe." Talo felt a chill. He thought of home and his small sister who slept by a lamp. He took the coin and left. Diplomats tried to soothe the panic. They sent calm words and sweet tones. But the galaxy moved faster than words. Old mercies were thin. Old fears were thick. A little resistance cell used the moment to strike a human supply line. They thought the broadcast gave them a chance. The strike moved like a needle under skin. On a neutral cargo liner, Captain Cira watched the market fall apart. She had met humans and trusted some. She tightened her hands on the wheel. She could feel the first cracks in trade lines. Her crew whispered and argued. Money and food and tools had always flowed through places like Terran. Now everything felt fragile. In the dark between systems, the Wayne's ship sliced comet dust. They argued quietly about who would control the secret if they found it. The ice world came up on their screens like a pale dot. Their pilot slowed. Then the pilot's face turned white. The screen showed movement, a formation aligned in a pattern like a human code. It was moving where human ships were not supposed to be. Ambassador Lutheran received a message from a far council. The council called for meetings. Traders closed their booths. Priests prayed. Generals ordered watches. People carried goods back to safe places. The ripples from the human beam had reached every market, every lane, every quiet home. Tailo sat in a small room with his crate open. He counted coins by a single bulb. The world had shifted while he walked the streets. He felt small and unsure. He had sold his glass and hoped for nothing worse. Above him, in a black field between stars, a shape cut the dark. It moved with slow purpose. It bore the human pattern. It flew where no human ship should be. Nobody in Terran knew the shape existed. Yet in that moment, the trade lane felt thinner. The price of safety got higher. Cliffhanger, while diplomats scramble to soothe fear, sensors pick up a human-shaped formation moving between two star systems where no human ships are supposed to exist. The lab smelled of warm metal and oil. Dr. Noor Salim wiped her hands on her coat. She had been awake for 2 nights. On the screen the human signal replayed slowly. The code inside it moved like a little machine. Noor fed the pulse into an old emulator. The emulator was not meant for this kind of pattern. It shivered and spat numbers. Then it began to reroute power. Lights dipped. A tiny drone in the corner froze mid-air. Noor felt a cold tick under her skin. This was not a normal message. She slowed the replay and watched a line of bits glow. The line fit into shapes in the old hardware designs. It fit too well. She whispered, "This is not just words." Her voice sounded small in the room. Across the galaxy, systems began to blink. A starport lost guidance. A colony ship lost its link. The pattern of outages matched the map hidden inside the broadcast. Places with old human history went dark first. Machines hummed as if remembering something. In a merchant guild hall an old ledger woke. It showed a list of names and dates that had not been spoken for generations. The guild master ran a finger across the letters. He felt like he was reading a debt owed long ago. The list named ports and convoys. It named people who had taken and people who had paid. Men in the hall looked at each other with old fear. The Wayne watched these reports in a cramped room full of tool cases. The Wayne were hunters who found lost things. They fed the map into their NAV system and traced a line to an ice world at the edge of a trade lane. The place had no visitors. The Wayne smiled. Lost things made good pay. They prepared in silence. Their ship was small and fast. The pilot, a lean woman named Jax, checked the drives and tightened bolts with careful hands. The captain, Fael, loaded old scanners. A mechanic tied a rig to his belt. No one spoke loudly. They all knew why the transmitter would matter. Ambassador Lutheran read the same map and felt his stomach tighten. The key inside the broadcast could unlock or shut many systems. If someone held the transmitter, they could hold power. Lutheran called for comm messages. He sent envoys to watch the lanes. He did not trust the Wayne. He did not trust anyone who moved too fast toward secrets. On their way, the Wayne passed fields of comet dust. Stars slid slow outside their windows. They argued quietly over who would claim the find. "We sell to the highest bidder," One said. We hand it to the guild, another said. Their voices fell when the pilot pointed to the screen. Something moved where no one expected. A formation, aligned in a human pattern, crossed a quiet chart. It had no registry. It had no call sign. Yet its shape matched the old human beacon code. The Wayne felt the hair rise on their necks. At the ice world, the sky was thin and hard. The cold cut through suits. The Wayne's ship dropped into a shallow orbit. White plains rolled like seas. In the distance a metal shape lay under ice. The instruments hummed. Jack set the landing gear. They walked under blank sky. Wind scraped their suits. The transmitter stood where the map said it would. It was old and dark and half buried. Rust and frost clung to metal. The Wayne stopped and looked. The machine was bigger than any of them had thought. Fael touched the casing with gloved fingers. He read a faded mark and frowned. The mark matched a registry that many had written off as a legend. The Wayne worked fast. They drilled and warmed and fed power into cold wires. The machine answered with a low, tired hum. Back in the lab, Noor found a hidden layer in the code. It looked like a lock with many teeth. The lock only a human mind could read cleanly. She found that the lock could reroute NAV arrays and reset old fail-safes. It could shut ports and make paths dark. It was not only a weapon. It was a key to control how systems saw the sky. News came to the Wayne that did not belong to them. A private channel lit with a whispered voice. The voice said, "Stand down." It came from an old SEAL. The Wayne looked at each other. No one moved. The Wayne turned the controls. The transmitter woke with a single bright pulse. For a moment the ice glowed. Then a thin column of energy climbed into the sky and folded into the void. At that same moment, a watcher in a listening post far away watched her screen and clutched at the arm of her chair. The pulse matched the human pattern perfectly. Her console showed a small blip, then a track. The track led away from the ice world and curved like a searching hand. On the transmitter platform, the Wayne saw a shape step out from behind the machine. Not a ghost. Not a hologram. A human figure in a patched coat, hair like the night, watched them without hurry. The figure did not raise a weapon. No one moved. Fael's breath fogged his visor. He opened his mouth, but the human put up a hand. The hand was empty. Then the human spoke in old radio tones. The voice on the wind was soft and steady. It said, "You should not wake things you do not understand." The Wayne were hunters. They had planned for trade and profit, not for guilt. They had not expected to find a person guarding a dead machine. They tightened boots and reached for their tools. The human's eyes were not angry. They were tired. Behind them, the sky held a track on the scanner. The formation that had moved between star systems slowed and pointed toward the ice world like a compass needle. The listening post sent the alarm, "Unexpected human signature at transmitter site." Cliffhanger, as the Wayne confront the lone human, the distant track curves into a direct intercept. On open scanners, an unregistered column of ships begins to align on the ice world's coordinates. The hangar smelled of oil and rain. Steel creaked when men moved. Under dust and tarps lay hulls that many had called myths. They were not shiny. They were scarred and bent. But they were whole. Captain Rahim Noor stood at the edge of the hangar and put his hand on the hull. He did not speak. He had been a teacher once. He had taught children to read maps and to respect the sea. He had never planned to command a warship. Yet here he was, and the ship answered to his touch like a sleeping animal waking. All over small yards and remote moons, crews climbed into ships. Old engines coughed and then burned hot. Fuel lines cleared like old throats. Men and women who had been farmers, doctors, and mechanics found uniforms that fit again. Names that time had tried to hide came back on metal plates. People read those names and remembered stories their grandparents told. Rahim walked the bridge with steady steps. He looked at the faded control plates. He ran his fingers over a etched crest. It matched a seal that few still used. He thought of the broadcast. He thought of the key hidden inside the message. The key had woken machines. The key had woken memories. On board, the crew moved with a new rhythm. They checked valves, polished periscopes, and turned dials that had not turned for decades. The ship was not perfect, but it was whole. Children of engineers sat in corners and watched with wide eyes. The old men laughed as if they had returned to an old storm. Orders moved like shadows through hidden channels. Some leaders urged caution. They wanted to keep these ships as a warning, not as an army. Others wanted to use them to take back old losses. They wanted each hull to speak of strength. The council in secret argued and argued. Ambassador Lutheran watched the news feeds and rubbed his temple. He had spent his life trading calm words. Now he saw old navies rise like a tide. He sent envoys to ask for a pause. He knew that seeing those ships in orbit would change minds. He also knew that some in the galaxy would answer force with force. Across the void an alien admiral watched satellite images of the old fleet. He remembered nights when a single human ship had saved his people. He also remembered a night when humans had burned a flotilla for a mistake. He did not trust promises. He moved ships closer and called his captains. Not every human felt the same. In port towns families cheered. People who had lost homes years ago felt a small hope. In quiet rooms others wept. Some parents folded maps and told their children bedtime stories without truth. The old fleet meant different things to different people. Captain Rahim sat in the chart room and read old logs. He found a file marked with a government seal that many believed dead. The file had a simple order: keep the fleet ready. Rahim thought the order was for defense only. The file was not clear. Far from Rahim, the Wayne's ship sped toward the ice world. News of the transmitter had spread like sparks. When the Wayne landed, they found a lone human standing beside the machine. The human had watched the sky and had not raised a weapon. He had spoken words that felt older than the dust. Then the sky changed. Far sensors showed a line of hulls turn their engines and point toward the ice world. The formation had no registry that most charts held. Yet its shape matched old human code. Reports came fast, other columns moved too. Old ships in storehouses woke and began to climb out of hidden docks. On Rahim's ship the bridge lights blinked as messages arrived. Names of targets appeared and then vanished. Some messages were signed by small groups. Others carried the old seal. Rahim read one encrypted line and his fingers tightened. The message did not come from any office Rahim knew. The seal on the file was older than the new council. It was the kind of seal used when decisions were clear and commands went without debate. The order was simple and hard. Prepare for deliberate demonstration, it read. Rahim felt the air change. A demonstration could be a show of strength. It could be words, a flyby, a signal, something to make others pause. Or it could be more. Rahim had seen how small things grew dangerous. He thought of children who would watch bright beams in the sky. He stepped out onto the deck. Cold wind hit his face. In the distance, the mast of another old ship cut the starfield like a dark tooth. He saw faces lit by screens. He heard a faint radio in the crew's pockets. Voices argued softly. A mechanic joked to hide his fear. A young recruit tightened his gloves like a man who must be brave. Ambassador Lutheran sent a message begging delay. He offered an assembly under neutral flags. He asked for time to talk and to find the human who had stood at the transmitter. He knew that words could still be tools. He also knew that tools can fail when hands shake. Across the void, the alien admiral ordered probes. He would not be the first to strike. He would be the first to show readiness. His captains moved like chess pieces. The galaxy watched. On the ice world, the Wayne and the lone human faced each other under a cold sky. The unregistered column loomed closer. The Wayne tightened their fingers. The human on the snow held an old map and did not flinch. Cliffhanger, Raheem's bridge receives another transmission. The seal is the same, but the sender is unknown. The encrypted file opens one line at a time and, in a single phrase, it names a target and a time, and then the channel goes dead. They met beneath cold lights on a neutral moon. Envoys came in plain ships. Flags that once meant nothing now meant everything. Ambassador Lutheran walked slow. His shoes clicked on stone. He met faces from many worlds. All of them wore the same worn look, fear pressed thin. On Earth, people listened on quiet channels. Commander Aisha watched the feeds and felt each message like a strike on a drum. She had sent the first line into the dark. Now she waited to see what the world had made of it. She did not sleep much. She drank bitter tea and read every report. Captain Raheem stood on his ship and watched the moon below. His old fleet had sailed out because a single seal had named a demonstration. He had not wanted to scare children or mothers. He had wanted to make a promise he could keep. The ship around him hummed with people who had chosen to come. Some wanted peace. Some wanted the old hurt settled by force. Raheem kept his face steady. Dr. Noor checked instruments and shook her head once. The code in the broadcast could do many things. It could close doors and open doors. It could warn and it could hurt. She wished someone had told her earlier how heavy a key could be. She read a file from the transmitter and found a plan hidden in plain sight. The plan was clear, paths and rules that could cut the sky when used with care. On the ice world, the lone human who had guarded the transmitter stood with the Wayne at his back. He spoke little. He had gray hair and eyes like winter. He said he had been a watchman. He said he had seen what hatred did. He said he had helped shape the key so it would not be a simple bomb. His voice was steady. It held the weight of one who had given a choice. The declaration came like a bell. It played across 1,000 channels from a neutral relay. It was not an angry speech. It was a clear voice, old and careful. The words were simple and hard. "We do not seek war," the voice said. "We do not beg. We explain a rule. From this hour, any force that fires first at human home systems will face a measured response. We offer safe passages for those who withdraw. We offer talks for those who fear. We will not be erased again." The declaration set the rule in two parts. First, a map of safe routes and safe harbors would be open to any who signed the covenant. Those routes used old beacons that the key could protect. Second, a limited set of countermeasures not aimed at bystanders would activate if a strike came without warning. The code in the pulse would trigger defenses near homes, not cities in space. Some cried at the words. Parents hugged children. Priests called the voice holy or false. Merchants counted costs and markets shifted like wind. Generals spat and clenched their hands. The alien admiral watched with a face like stone and made plans anyway. Ambassador Lutheran asked for a meeting in the neutral dome. He spoke with soft, even words. He said the declaration offered a path away from slaughter. He urged rulers to take the safe map and to talk. He begged small powers to refuse the lure of quick force. Many nodded. A few left in anger. Captain Raheem sent a message to his fleet. He told his captains to hold position. He told them to show strength but not to be first to fire. His voice trembled only once. He thought of the young faces in his bunks and of the mothers who had handed him letters. He did not want the sky to light with pain. But not all leaders listened to Lutheran or Raheem. A hard faction in a nearby star system distrusted the human words. They said danger had no rule. They moved ships into striking range and sent a test missile toward a remote relay that sat near human space. The relay held no people. It had only old wiring and a silent beacon. The countermeasure code waited like a sleeping animal. It was small and precise. It would not burn a city. It would make it costly for any who fired first at home. When the missile left the hard factions bay, it cut the dark with a bright arc. The relay saw the arc and the rule triggered. A hush fell over 1,000 channels. The missile stopped mid-flight. Its guidance failed. Then, where the missile had been aimed, a small, precise pulse disabled the attacker's targeting for minutes. Machines that had led a strike blinked and found their sight gone. The pulse did not break hulls. It did not start fires. It only made war a bad bargain. The attacking star system howled and called it a trick. The hard faction said humans had cheated. They vowed revenge. Other governments called for calm and took deep breaths. The demonstration had happened without a large fire. It had shown that the rule could work and that it could hurt the first hand that struck. In the neutral dome, Ambassador Lutheran watched the feeds and felt both relief and fear. The map had done as promised. It had kept far people safe while it stopped one small strike. Yet the action changed minds. Some who had been leaning to talks now saw the human code as a threat. Others saw it as the only way to stop old cycles. Commander Aisha heard a child laugh in a feed. She felt a sharp tug in her chest. The world may yet choose a wiser path. She hoped it would. But she also read the faces of captains and admirals. She understood that fear would not end with one demonstration. On the ice world, the Wayne and the lone human watched skylines fill with old ships and new probes. The human shifted and said, "We made a rule, not revenge." The Wayne argued quietly. They had wanted profit and secrets. They found instead that choices weigh more than credits. Cliffhanger ending: as envoys talk and fleets hold, a distant sensor shows a new track, a slow, massive shape moving through deep space. It carries no flag and no registry. Its hull hums with a tone the old transmitters answer to. The message that began with one short line now reaches the edge of the map. Someone or something is choosing a side. The dome listens, and the galaxy waits to see who will move first.